supposed to be a calm Monday evening in Ermont, a quiet little town just northwest of Paris. But everything changed in a matter of minutes. The sky darkened, the wind began to roar, and by 5:45 p.m., a massive supercell storm exploded over the region, unleashing one of the most violent tornadoes France has seen in years. The storm showed no mercy. Roofs were ripped straight off homes and sent flying through the air like metal blades. Streetlights bent under the pressure of winds roaring over 120 miles per hour. Trees twisted until they snapped in half, crushing cars and power lines beneath them. A 100-foot construction crane came crashing down onto a nearby medical training center, leaving behind nothing but wreckage and chaos. Residents described the sound as deafening, like a freight train tearing through the streets. In just seconds, this peaceful suburb turned into a war zone of flying debris and shattered glass.
我靠！等一下，我先收衣服。龙卷风哎，你看那个。
I'm looking for my blanket. Oh, can I look for my blanket?
This wasn't Kansas. This wasn't Oklahoma. This was France, and tonight, nature made one thing crystal clear. No place on Earth is truly safe when the storm decides to strike. It started out like any normal afternoon in Ermont. Kids were walking home from school, local shops were closing up, and the streets buzzed with the usual evening traffic. But then, everything changed. Without warning, the sky grew dark, and a deep rumble rolled across the town. It wasn't thunder. It was the chilling sound of a tornado forming.
Oh my God.
Wah, kagak rudal. Kayak bahan kagak rudal ya, Pak.
At exactly 5:45 p.m., the storm hit. Winds screamed through the neighborhood at over 120 miles per hour. Roofs were ripped clean off homes, and debris flew through the air like deadly shrapnel. Trees snapped in half. Cars were tossed like toys. In just seconds, calm turned to chaos. At a construction site, a massive crane collapsed, crashing straight through the roof of a nearby training center. Glass windows shattered. Walls trembled as the air pressure dropped. Sirens wailed. Phones buzzed with emergency alerts. Take shelter immediately. People scrambled for safety, diving under tables, huddling in basements, clutching loved ones. One mother pulled her children close beneath a staircase as the roof tore away above them.
Ah, les filles tombent! Oh là là, papa! Oh, putain! Oh merde! Papa! Ah, les filles tombent! Oh là là, papa! Oh, putain! Oh merde!
Oh, putain, le toit de la maison! Oh putain!
Another resident filmed from his window, his final clip capturing the skyline disappearing into a blur of flying debris. And then, silence. The storm had lasted less than 5 minutes, but in that short time, it left Ermont unrecognizable. A peaceful town turned into a wasteland of destruction. A town that once had cozy houses, small cafes, and quiet streets now looked like a battlefield. Roofs were ripped away, walls crumbled, cars flipped upside down. Shattered glass sparkled across the streets like ice under lightning. The town's medical training center, hit by a falling crane, became the face of this disaster. Firefighters fought through twisted steel and piles of concrete, their flashlights slicing through the dust. One witness said it felt like the sirens would never stop, and the sound of metal breaking still echoes in their head.
Oh my God.
Downed power lines hung dangerously low over the flooded streets. Parks that once echoed with laughter were now filled with broken trees, mud, and silence. Whole neighborhoods sat in darkness. No lights, no power, just the smell of rain, oil, and smoke in the air. People wandered through the wreckage in disbelief, barefoot, holding onto phones that couldn't even call for help. Up north, apartment buildings had their windows blown out, balconies ripped clean off. Streets were blocked by branches, cars, and roof tiles. Emergency crews went door to door, shouting into the wreckage, hoping for a reply. The damage stretched for miles, a narrow scar cutting straight through the heart of the town, marking exactly where the tornado tore everything apart. In just a few minutes, decades of hard work, memories, and dreams vanished. Vermont was still standing, but forever changed, its skyline now broken, silhouetted against a dark, stormy sky. If you want to stay updated on real stories like this one, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Within minutes after the tornado ripped through Vermont, the entire region was thrown into chaos. Firefighters, police officers, and paramedics raced toward the destruction, their sirens echoing through streets buried under twisted metal and debris. Over 200 emergency workers were dispatched across the val-d'Oise area, all with one mission: find the injured, secure the damaged buildings, and stop more tragedy from unfolding.
On va peut-être partir.
Ah, les filles tombent. Ah là là, papa. Oh, putain, oh merde.
At the site of a collapsed training center, crushed beneath a fallen crane, rescuers clawed through piles of concrete and steel, shouting into the rubble, hoping for a response. Every few minutes, someone would yell, "Quiet!" listening for faint cries for help. Roads were completely blocked by uprooted trees and broken power poles. Bulldozers worked non-stop to clear paths for ambulances, while utility crews struggled against heavy rain and fierce winds to shut down live electrical lines sparking across the wreckage. Above them, helicopters circled, giving rescue teams a clear view from the air and guiding them toward the worst-hit areas. Hospitals in nearby towns like Pontoise and even in Paris went into emergency mode, preparing for wave after wave of injured people, many suffering from severe trauma, broken bones, and hypothermia. By nightfall, community centers and schools were turned into makeshift shelters. Rescue crews managed to pull several survivors from the ruins, but dozens were still unaccounted for.
On va peut-être partir.
That night, Vermont became a town of flashing lights, roaring sirens, and heroes running on nothing but adrenaline and hope, fighting against time, the storm, and despair itself. The wind that hit Vermont wasn't just strong, it was devastating. The tornado had passed, but its scars were everywhere. Streets once packed with commuters were now littered with debris. A state of emergency was declared. Emergency teams moved block by block, marking unsafe homes with red tape. Engineers checked every bridge, hospital, and school, trying to figure out what could still stand. In temporary shelters, hundreds of people gathered. Some were searching for loved ones. Others just wanted to know if their homes were still standing. Volunteers served hot soup, offered blankets, and tried to bring a little comfort. One mother held her son's torn school bag, one of the few things she had left. Local officials said hundreds of buildings were either damaged or completely destroyed. Businesses were gutted. Shops stood wide open, looted not by people, but by the storm itself. The skyline that once looked calm and familiar was now jagged and broken. But even in the middle of all this destruction, there was something stronger than the storm. Hope. Neighbors shared tools. They offered roofs, food, and helping hands. They began rebuilding not just their homes, but their lives. Recovery will take months, maybe even years. But as one firefighter said, "We might have lost our homes, but we haven't lost our spirit."